both coaching and mentoring isn't always done by someone who's been in the business for a long time. It may be somebody who has just graduated from college or just, come into the industry. I think that we need to be open and willing to listen and and understand the other person's perspective.
Hello and welcome to Love as a Business Strategy, a podcast that brings humanity to the workplace. We're here to talk about business, but we want to tackle topics that most business leaders tend to shy away from. And we believe that humanity and love should be at the center of every successful business. I am your host, as always, Jeff Ma, and I want to have conversations and hear stories from real people about real businesses and see where love might fit into that equation. My guest today is Debbie Richards. Debbie is a learning architect, self-proclaimed geek, and early adopter of learning technologies. She's passionate about working with and mentoring other talent development professionals, and she's the past president of the Association for Talent Development, or ATD, the Houston chapter, and a past national advisor for ATD chapters as well. She sits on the board of directors for L&D Cares, which is a nonprofit providing coaching, mentoring, and resources for talent development professionals so that they can thrive and flourish. So I'm so excited to have her here today, and I want to welcome her here on the show, and I'm excited to have her share wisdom and experience around coaching and mentoring and other topics. So Debbie, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you, Jeff. Happy to be here.
Before we hit record here, you had just mentioned a trip you just had, and I just want to hit it real quick because you won a very big award this past week. Can you tell us what that was?
Yes. So I was at Learning 2022 in Orlando. That is a conference for learning leaders in our industry, and it's sponsored by the Learning Guild, which is an association for people in the talent development world. It's a free organization to join, and I would recommend that anybody is interested in talent development join that association. But they have an honor called the Guild Master. And the Guild Master is the idea of recognizing members who've contributed to the community, both quantity and quality of content, and it's for outstanding contributions to the learning technologies industry. So I was excited to get that award. It was unexpected. Um, and I join about 20 plus learning professionals in our industry obtaining that award. Oh, I'll show you.
Oh yeah, if
Here's
you have
my
the
award.
video, it's a beautiful plaque. I love it. Congratulations, Debbie. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So let's start by talking about the journey, the path, I guess, from wherever you'd like to begin the past and all the way to Guild Master. where does your passion come from along the way? What has made you kind of arrive at where you are today?
So I've always been interested in technology ever since I was a little girl. I have a computer science background. I was a robotics programmer early on in my career, and I've done a number of things. I live in Houston, Texas, and when I moved to Houston, I didn't know too many people, and I wanted to get involved in our community and meet other people. So I joined a local association, which is the Association for Talent Development. And it is a community that allows you to network with people that are like you. I know sometimes when we talk about what we do for work, sometimes people don't understand what we do. I know when I used to describe what I did to my nephews and nieces, I would talk about it and they would say, well, so you work in an office, you send people email, you talk to them on the computer, and that's what you do all day long? And, I just trying to explain to people what you do is sometimes difficult. So having a group of people that you can hang out with and talk to that do things that are very similar to what you do, and they can share experiences. You can gripe about things or you can celebrate things is wonderful. When I joined the association, it was a very different association, and for me as a technology person, still kind of felt lost because I couldn't find people that had my love for technology and who were interested in pioneering, learning into technology, and this was in the early ages of when we were just putting, things out on the internet. That kinda ages me, but, I've been around the industry for a long time, and I remember I was at a meeting one time, and this I was complaining to this woman about how the topics and things that the association discussed were not very interesting to me. I couldn't find people that were doing the same thing or had the same passion. And I remember this woman said to me, she says, "Put your big girl pants on and get it started." So that was a mantra for me, and I took that to heart. So I started bringing in technology and searching out for those people, and then bringing them to the association. And that has been my passion for many, many years is introducing people to technology, making it easy for them. I taught a class yesterday to a group of people that worked at a company on how to use a software package to create e-learning. And we had people in the class that had all different levels of experience. Some who were instructional designers and had formal training in developing online learning, and some who didn't, that were just subject matter experts. And it was my job to help them understand how to use this tool to create learning and to give them enough information so they could get started and be successful. So I'm excited about that. I'm also very excited about bringing in people into um, the organization, so the talent development organization overall. And I mentor a number of people. I have a number of folks that contact me, and they either need like one-time advice or ongoing support. And I feel like, particularly in our industry, that is something that we all can share and help with. And that's part of the mantra for L&D Cares, which is our nonprofit organization, is we're there to help people who have been either displaced or who are trying to get into the talent development field. And our current mission right now, in fact, we've been talking about this week, and we're trying to help is help the number of people who've been displaced at Amazon, especially those in HR and L&D, um, trying to help them, coach them, mentor them as well.
Amazing. Doing so much, have done so much. Are you still in touch with the person who told you to put your big girl pants on?
I am. She's retired now, but I keep in touch with her. I let her know what I'm doing and how things are going, and she's a coach for me and a mentor as well.
That's amazing. Does she know the impact that her words have had on your life?
Oh, she does.
Awesome. So, I guess just you last mentioned L&D Cares and this mission you're on. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, learning and development in general as um, like these professionals and what's unique about this this realm that you've experienced?
So, talent development, learning and development is a part of, sometimes it's a part of human resources in enterprise organizations. Other times it's a separate component. Um, it has its own silo, but it is the agency within an enterprise organization that helps their employees with professional development. Now, some of that professional development may be compliance training. So, for example, I've been working with a company as a contractor, and so even though I'm not an employee of the company, I like all the contractors, like all the employees, had to take a course in cybersecurity. So
Hmm.
we had to learn how to set up um, and um, and use passwords. And I've been doing this for a long time, but I'll just tell you, I took that course and I learned something new. And so uh, there are some things that are required by different companies that may be safety related, that may be things around cybersecurity or harassment in the workplace. And then there are other courses that are courses on how to use software, how to communicate and work with others in the workplace. During the pandemic, we had to push out training on how to use communication tools like Microsoft Teams. So L&D has plays a very important part in the organization to help educate and promote professional development. And there are a number of people who are very passionate about that. There are there's so many different components to that. In most enterprise organizations, you have a learning management system that employees go out and they log in, they take their training, they can see their transcripts, they can search for classes, and those courses may be developed in house or they may obtain those courses through an agency, for example, Skillsoft or LinkedIn Learning or something like that. But now the learning management system is a little more holistic. It has other components. So it may have a talent development component as well. So it may have the ability for people to have succession planning or performance or any number of things. So it's the hub of that skill set. And recently, learning and development has taken on the task of helping with DE&I as well.
Hmm.
So a number of the companies that I work with, they've established communities. So they have a community for women in the workplace or different minorities, veterans, any number of um, of, of communities that meet and talk about different topics, and they're able to share experiences and provide support for each other. Because of that, because of the diversity of all these different types of of things, the talent development, um, learning and development, DE&I, there are so many opportunities for people to come into our field, and there are amazingly there are a number of job opportunities. Um, Something that we've been seeing a lot of are people that are leaving education and wanting to come into the enterprise learning. I'm a little sad about that because we really need teachers that are working in our public schools, but um, we've seen a lot of the shift of those people moving into enterprise organizations and wanting to work with adult learning. And it's a little different than teaching in the public system.
Hmm. For sure. I know a lot of your focus is around talent development, learning development, and also mentoring. Where do you think you get this passion from? Where is this? What draws you to it?
For me personally, it's just thinking about the ability to help others, to help in the community, because it's up to us to shape and to share our experiences for the future. You know, if we've spent a lot of time building an organization, getting it to a certain point, I certainly don't want to just leave without a good succession plan. You know, I want to leave with information so people can handle different scenarios. If something happens, they understand how to handle it. And they're able to communicate, they're able to take on those roles. And it's a challenge. I mean, a lot of the associations that we belong to, the majority of people in the association are volunteers. There may be a couple of people who are paid, but everybody else is donating their time. And so sometimes things go by the wayside because we're really busy trying to just accomplish the big tasks. But
Hmm.
there are a lot of little tasks that we need to do to keep the association going as well.
That makes sense. And the reason I was so excited to have you come talk today is because with love as a business strategy and everything we talk about and everything we work towards, it's about organizational success, but it really always boils down to individual behavior and individual mindsets and all these things. And a huge variable and factor in that is coaching and mentoring and learning systems, and how these norms and these behaviors, spread within organizations, how they're gained and how they're retained. And so I really wanted to pick your brain today on kind of love, as we just sum it up in one word, is really made up of so many different behaviors, right? From building trust to being vulnerable to having empathy, all these things. But this element of coaching and mentoring through those things, and helping others achieve those things, it's just paramount, right? Like it doesn't happen on your own. It needs the leaders to not only demonstrate it but then guide others through it. And it needs people to lift each other up through it. So I really wanted to get your perspective and maybe your experience in this specific arena of coaching and mentoring and learning, right? What have you seen that works or doesn't work? I know it's a very broad question, but I
Mhm.
just I just want to know, like, what does love look like in your experience?
Yeah, I think it starts with an open mind, because both coaching and mentoring isn't always done by someone who's been in the business for a long time. It may be somebody who has just graduated from college or just, come into the industry. I think that we need to be open and willing to listen and understand the other person's perspective. And yeah, I've read the book as well, and I think that's a theme that runs throughout the book as well. Is that you need to put yourself in other people's shoes, and I think that's true with anything that has to do with both coaching and mentoring is understanding where somebody else is coming from, understanding what you can do to help them, and whether it's something that that you give them you have a conversation and you come out of that conversation and say, okay, here's what I'm going to do and here's what you're going to do, and you have that commitment to each other to accomplish that task, and you know that that task is going to help both parties. um, it's important to have that type of relationship. And again, I've been coached and mentored by young people, and I learn so much from them. And I think that's the mindset we have to have is that it's not always a one way street. It goes both ways, and we can learn from each other.
What's your favorite coaching and mentoring success story?
Um, so I will say, so when you're mentoring, we're trying to help other people grow and develop. And again, that person could be a younger person or an older person. And for me, the kinds of things that I've really enjoyed doing is having somebody have their first experience with technology. So I right now I'm doing a lot of work in virtual reality,
Mhm.
and I'll just say in general, when I put somebody in a virtual reality headset for the first time and they have that experience, it is just a joy to hear them and to hear them talk. I worked with a group just recently when we're working on a training project, and I put somebody in the headset. They'd never been in a headset before, walked them through an experience, and then they tried the experience a couple times, and then we brought somebody else in who also had never had that experience, and I watched the person who I just had just taught teach the other person and walk them through. And I mean, it had been a matter of like 15 minutes. And he did a great job of taking this other person in. And I was just sitting there going, yes, it's just a joy to see that happen. So for me, that's an example of something that gives me great pleasure, is to see people experience new technologies.
Mm. Can you help me, I guess, in your words, define the difference between coaching and mentoring? Is there a difference, and what do you see?
Yeah. So for mentoring, I think you use your knowledge to help somebody else grow. So it's the idea of like I have been in technology for a long time. I have also done a number of different jobs. I've worked in a corporation. I've worked on my own. um, at the Learning 2022 conference, there were a number of people who came up to me and asked me about starting their own business or becoming a consultant, and they wanted, me to give them some advice and some things that they should do. So I shared my experiences and my skills with them to help them with that. So I consider that being a mentor. Somebody who is a coach, not only do they do those sorts of things, but they ask the person that they're working with what goals they have, and then they help them achieve those goals.
Hmm.
So it's slightly different.
Are you saying that coaching and like encompasses like you to coach you have to mentor, but not vice versa, or are they two separate things?
I kind of think sometimes the lines get blurred,
Yeah.
but I think for if you're coaching someone, there is a clear objective. So that they say, "I want to learn this by X date," or "I want to be able to be proficient in something by X date," and then you help them along the way. A mentor could be a one-time mentor, or it could be a lifelong mentor. I had a wonderful mentor for many years. Her name was Sandy Staten. She's no longer with us, but she was someone who I would reach out to because she helped me along the way with her experiences. She'd worked in enterprise learning for many, many years. Um, the first time I wanted to do a presentation, I'd never done a presentation to an association, and she had done that. I reached out to her for advice, and she provided a lot of knowledge and information for me. So in that stage, she was a mentor, but she also coached me through my goal of becoming a speaker, and she helped me achieve that goal. So now I speak probably at 10 plus conferences a year. Um, and I feel like I owe a lot of that to Sandy.
That's amazing. I'm really curious what, in your experience, makes like what qualities or behaviors really make a a a good coach and mentor?
Um, I think number one, I think it's somebody who has really good listening skills, who can listen to the person that they're mentoring or coaching, and they're able um, to format in their mind something that would help that person. To me, that's the number one um, thing that they need to do is, like I said, um, if you are doing a coaching, you're trying to achieve a certain goal. Mentoring may last for years. Um, it's something that it's a long-term relationship, whereas coaching may be, just let's work on this specific thing that you want to accomplish. And the person who is helping needs to understand the difference and needs to be able to relate to the person that they're working with.
That makes sense. In my mind, I feel like a strong like mentor-mentee relationship includes a lot of, you know, in my mind at least, it feels like it requires a lot of trust and vulnerability um, between the two, a relationship really. Um, would you say that's true? And if so, how do you go about, properly building that in that relationship?
Well, if you want to become a professional coach, there are a lot of things that you can do. There's actually an association of professional coaches that you can join. There's a lot of training that you can go through. And but you don't necessarily have to do that. Um, I think um, that the that you've gotta have, like I said, that ability of listening. You need to, if you were like a manager and you're coaching or mentoring a support, somebody who, is under you, understanding, your particular goal. Like, you may be mentoring somebody or coaching them to achieve their goal, and your goal is to retain them as an employee or to meet certain business goals as well. And how are you going to do that? Communication is huge in any case. And then it just kind of depends on the nature of the coaching program that you're doing.
Yeah. And I think the context that I'm asking under is I think many of the listeners are in leadership roles already. So, like various, right? Team leads all the way up to CEOs or whatever it may be. And I know that for them, there's this connection that at least I draw to this role that the leader should be a mentor, should be a coach, and be playing that role for their team at any given time. I'm not sure everybody understands what that might entail. And so regardless of the type of team, the type of leader, what advice do you have for them as they're building their team and growing their team and how to move in that direction?
So, for the mentoring standpoint, I think it's really important to be an active listener, and to get an idea and to talk with the person that you're going to mentor prior before you enter into that solution. You want to make suggestions. Maybe you make connections for them. You give them a connection to something that's going to help them. So, for example, I'm actually mentoring a young lady right now, and she's wanting to get into learning and development. And so I made the connection and suggested that she join our local ATD chapter and attend a meeting, which she did. And she met some people there that are probably going to help her with her journey to become a member of the L&D community. From the coaching side, the idea is to help somebody find a solution, but you don't tell them how to do it and you don't lead them to that solution. You help them find a solution. You listen to the person, you help them identify a plan or a solution, and then help them um, uh, actually achieve that plan, so achieve that goal or whatever they're trying to do. So I the with 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 mentoring, you may have different choices, different goals, and different things that you're doing. Coaching is much more structured, and it may have a shorter time period, and um, usually you may have a coach that's within your organization, and a mentor might be outside of your organization.
Mhm.
They might be somebody who works for a different company or somebody that you met on LinkedIn or at um, a networking event or a conference who you think could help you with uh, what you're trying to do, how you're trying to build your career, or you're at a fork in the road and you need to make a decision. This is something I talked about at Learning 2022. Is there are a number of people who need to make a decision? Do they want to become a manager? They're at a certain level in their organization, and they say, "Do I want to become a manager, or do I just want to be a high performer,
Mm.
or do I want to break away from this organization and start out on my own?" And so a mentor is a good person to talk to and to kind of help them with that as well. And
Awesome.
you wouldn't have that conversation with somebody in your organization,
Yeah.
because that could be very sensitive.
Last question, before we run out of time here, but it may be, I guess it's starting to feel like an old topic, but I still always want to know, how has the pandemic and the changes that have happened the last 2+ years, affected this your ability or what you've seen people's abilities to be in terms of effectively coaching and mentoring? Has it impacted in what ways?
Well, I think, um, when we first started into the pandemic, people were getting used to communicating, virtually, because for before that, I mean, we had meetings that were virtual, and we had things that we were doing, but that wasn't our only option. You know, we could go meet for coffee. We could do things differently. And when we were thrown in the pandemic to only meeting virtually, there was a challenge to that because there isn't a sense where you can, you feel like you're really making eye contact. You're really having that personal discussion, and it is carried through because now a lot of companies are saying, well, this worked out great. We can downsize our organization. We don't have to have everybody come into the office. A lot of companies have uh, hoteling that they're using where people can go in and they don't have a real office at their organization. They reserve a space to come in for meetings or to just work in the office. And so there isn't that sense of being able to go over to the water cooler where or the break room and have a conversation. Um, I am actually mentoring a young woman who was hired into an organization, and the only um, uh, way that she has communicated with others in her department and in her company is virtually. She has never met her boss in person.
Hmm.
She's never met any of the people she works with in person, and so she feels really isolated. She understands why we're doing that. And hey, we used to do that. I mean, we're a lot of enterprise organizations are global enterprise, and you have people working all over the world. But, we would come together at different times and meet and break bread together. So it does feel a little bit isolated, and we have to figure out a way to break that and to reach through the screen and um, have the mentoring and have the coaching where people feel like they're still having that bond between them. And I don't know, for some people that works. Others, they just can't. They still just can't do it. They really want to meet in person. And I know with our local ATD chapter, that's been a big challenge. Once you live in the city of Houston, it's 60 miles any way you go. And to get people to come to an in-person meeting now is difficult because people say, well, before the pandemic, I would come because we didn't have any other option. But now you could have a webinar instead of having me come to that meeting, and I could just jump on that webinar and I don't have to leave my house or my office. I would prefer a webinar.
Hmm.
And it's a matter of if you go to an in-person meeting, you're not just spending 1 hour, you may be spending 3 hours going in traffic to the location and then going back. And you really have to make a commitment to doing that in-person meeting. But it's so important. I think it's so important for us to meet in person at least once in a while. And we don't necessarily have to hug, but just to share a conversation across a table and to work together is very important. And I hope that our society doesn't lose that.
Agreed. Debbie, thank you so much for spending your time today and chatting with us. And I've learned a lot. I really appreciate the perspective and clarity around coaching and mentoring that you gave us today. So, truly, truly thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you. And best of luck to you and your organization as well. The book is fantastic. I've been giving it to all my friends.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You segued me perfectly into my closing plug. Please check out the book. As Debbie says, it's great. I'm not allowed to say it, but she said it. Um, Go check it out. It's available on the retailers that you might use. And thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. We try to get these episodes out every week for you. And if you have any feedback, we'd love to hear it. Please subscribe and rate and tell friends. We love to share this community and this conversation with you. And so, with that, I want to say thank you again to Debbie. Thank you to the listeners, and everybody have a great week.
Thank you, Jeff.